On with jade, a type of gemstone that is either a mineral called nephrite or jadeite. And as we start right now, we're going to go with the gemology of jade. And as we go, so let's say this, number 3 will be gemology, and specifically we're talking about color and optics. Those are the things we're going to be caring about. Let me show you an image of the top quality of jade that exists. This is an image that is from the GIA, Gemological Institute of America training, and they said this is the best jade you can possibly find. And when you see it, you see this bright green color. The other thing you see is that it's very fine and smooth, and it kind of almost glows green. This is top jade, worth thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars per carat. Lesser jade is worth less, and different colors have different values as well. We're going to go through that right now. So capital A is going to be color, and there are many different potential colors for jade. Many colors possible, and many colors are valued. And you can even have different colors within a single specimen. It can have gradients within it. So we'll say even within a single specimen. All right, this is possible, although green is top. So let's go here. Number 1 is going to be green. When we talk about green, the color is coming from either iron or chrome trace elements. Right? There's always these things that give color, and in this case, the top green is coming from chrome. But iron can, so chrome is probably what's giving the top jadeite its color, and iron is giving a lesser green and what colors the nephrite variety of jade. When we talk about the different hues, there is imperial jade, and that is our absolute top color, and what I am showing here. That is imperial jade. Other colors can be darker or yellower or grayer. That is certainly okay. And that's jadeite. For nephrite, we're just going to say the colors are darker. But still can have a lot of value. Nephrite also may be allowed to have inclusions like chromite. So you can have like inclusions peppering through the color and not have the value drop too much. Other colors are accepted and coveted as well. Let me show you a couple of them. Before I do that, let's go ahead and put green. Here's an image of top green jade from Burma. You can see how there's some darker domains peppering through that one. Now here's the next color we're going to talk about, and that's lavender. Lavender jade is very valuable as well. So number 2 is lavender jade. Lavender is used for jewelry, of course. Nowadays, that's what jade is used for in all ways. And this is colored by trace amounts of manganese. Manganese is what gives that purple color. This ends up being the 3rd most valuable color. Maybe surprisingly, oh, and let's put another word. Let's put a word right here. This is called modeling. When you have this color variegation, it's called mottled, and it's accepted. Now, what is sometimes the most valuable is called white jade. Maybe we'll put this color, we'll call it creamy white. The industry has different terms for this. Sometimes it's actually called mutton fat, which is kind of a gross way to describe a color. And what creamy white is this is the most valuable color of jade, of nephrite. Most valuable color of nephrite. It's pure and pristine, and people covet it for their jewelry. The creamy white colors can be translucent to even opaque. There is one variety of white that's called ice jade that's fairly new to the market. And ice jade almost looks like moonstone, and it's a translucent icy white. Right, there's our colors. Now let's talk about textures and top quality. So we're going to go here. Let's go B. This is going to be textures. And our texture that is of top quality, I've shown it to you in a couple of the stones already, and that is translucent. Light will come through the stone partially. It also is going to be very fine grained. It wants to look smooth. And then also uniform. That means without modeling. That's top grade. So that would be why this stone right here is worth maybe $100,000. In the gem industry, we call things with different names. The term for the top quality is called old mine. This is our very fine-grained material. So this is our fine-grained top quality. We want to describe a great piece. We say, this is old mine. If something is coarser, then it is called new mine. Coarser texture. When we prepare the stones, we should write this down, is that it is carved, not faceted. So things that are made can be these, stunning actual carvings of things like dragons and fish and grasshoppers, or they can be turned into cabochons, which are that smoothed material like a bead, which again, it's this right here. That'd be a classic jade cabochon. It takes a polish beautifully, especially the finer grain material. So fine grain material takes polish well and can be really stunning. Many times, the material that is carved from a single piece. And so this is called a hololith. This is when you have a single piece used to cut a piece of jewelry. And you don't make things, like imagine you have a ring, like a bracelet, right? And then there's the inside of the bracelet. Well, it's not glued together or sutured. It's carved from one larger piece. Oh, that's a hololith. Or sometimes they even do this in jade. They make a circle and then they carve it around like a chain. But all of them are actually from one single piece. That adds a lot of value to jade. So that's when jewelry is carved from a single piece. Jewelry carved from single piece. This is a coveted thing. Now, when we're looking at jade, how do we judge it and inspect it? That's what we're going to call here. It's harder for jade than it is for other gemstones. So we're going to call this one inspection. And maybe before we write down notes about it, let me show you a picture from Wikipedia of a man inspecting jade at a sale. So what you can see what he's doing here, don't scroll that way, scroll this way. He has a flashlight. He's coming up to these pieces of river jade. You can see that they're rounded boulders with the flashlight, and he's trying to see what the color of light is coming off the stone. This is how you inspect jade before it is cut. And what you can't see maybe is much green light at all coming, and that's because river boulders tend to have a rind on them. And so let's put this first. River boulders have a weathered rind that obscures the interior quality. So if we had a stone and we found it, it's this beautiful jade, and there's like the beautiful jade on the inside, well, surrounding on the outside is just this crappy weathered rind that doesn't show any green at all. And so what people need to do is they need to figure out how good that green interior actually is. And so they'll walk up to it with a flashlight, or what they'll do is they'll grind windows. Well, they'll do something like this with a saw, and they have to be so careful because the more good green you grind away, the less money you're going to make. So they'll do things like grinding windows to examine, or they'll look for places where the skin of the boulder is a little thin. All right, I'm going to thin it out right there. That's just a natural thinning. That's called a show point. And this is how people judge rough boulders. Do you need to be worried about treatments of jade if you were to buy something? And the answer is, of course, yes. You have to always be worried about treatments and then synthetics and all sorts of stuff like that. There are all these different levels. There are these types. That's how they talk about the grading, the types. And they range from A, B, C, and D. D is our lowest quality, type A is our best quality. And the treatment type for A is they allow you to wax the stone to help give it a better polish. With type B, you're allowed to bleach it to get rid of things like iron staining and just make it more pristine. And then you are also allowed to, they use the word impregnate with resin. Resin fills the grains, but fills the spaces between the grains, making things stronger and then polish better. Type C, you bleach, and then you can actually stain it to change the color. The money here, so here, big money, right? Now this we're starting to actually become fairly cheap and inexpensive. This is low money. And then D, this is just a composite stone where they're actually like gluing pieces together. This is kind of the cutoff here. This is the stuff that people should be buying in jewelry stores. And this is more, if you're a tourist and you want to buy a little knickknack, go ahead and buy C or D and hold your head high. Now to finish off, let's just go around the world and talk about where jade is found. So let's say we're going to call this Roman numeral 4. The sources for jade. There are two main minerals, right? We have both nephrite and jadeite. So let's talk about the sources for nephrite first. There are many places in the world with nephrite jade, but almost all of it now comes from British Columbia, which might be a surprise, in northern Canada. So let's see, here's this, and Alaska comes down like here, and let's say here's Vancouver, and here's Seattle, right? Well, way up here, I don't know exactly where Alaska starts, but way up here in British Columbia, this is nephrite jade country. There's about 50 different locations in this area of the world where nephrite can be found. So let's say that nephrite, almost all for gem industry, is now from northern British Columbia. And so actually what ends up happening is that Chinese investors pay to have this material mined, and then it gets shipped to China for processing and purchasing. That's the main story today about nephrite jade. Now, the most valuable of all the jades, of course, is jadeite, especially when it has that stunning green color. And 70% of the world's highest quality jadeite comes from Myanmar. All right, so it comes from an area in Myanmar or Burma. Not the same area, Myanmar, as ruby, right? We should just put ruby here as a reminder to us that there's so much mineralogical value in the country of Myanmar. It's a place called the Jade Tract of Myanmar. It actually ends up producing half of the country's GDP comes from selling jade, much more than ruby. Half of Myanmar's GDP comes from ruby mining. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. There's a huge amount of corruption as well associated with it. Now the remainder, now this kind of jade, it's kind of neat. This kind of jade is called kingfisher jade, named after a beautiful bird in that area. Now the remainder comes from Guatemala. Remainder of gem quality jadeite from Guatemala. And this has a neat name for it as well in the trade, and it's called Quetzal, named after the stunning green bird in Central America. Oh, and there's one other place for jade, and this is not an economic place at all, but it's a place maybe you or I could go, and it's in California. There's a place, it's called Jade Cove, on the coast of California, between, so let's see, here's California, San Francisco, Los Angeles, right here. So there's Highway 1, which is this highway that goes along the coast, and there's a place right about here where you can actually find jade, the beautiful type as well. All right, there you have it. See you next time as we move on to another gemstone.